Hello and welcome back to another new edition of Windows and Current Affairs. And today, as we are, most of us are looking everywhere to travel, spend nice vacations and receiving tourists and exploring new destinations and spots, charming spots to spend our vacations. I mean, it's leisure time. And while we talk about leisure time, we can never forget choosing Egypt always as the first destination to spend your vacation. Well, that was not our choice. Of course, we know that. But Egypt was chosen according to a survey by the British Daily Mail paper. Or also, I mean, they were chosen a website for the newspaper and also a portal for the magazine. They chose Egypt as the #1 destination, tourist destination spot to be visited mainly by Britons to spend their vacations at, especially, I mean, escaping from the cold weather in Britain and flying or fleeing to the beautiful weather in Egypt. Today we're going to be talking about choosing Egypt as one of the best destinations by not only the Daily Mail but most European countries, and also we're going to be talking about the different types of tourism. Also we're going to be talking about different aspects of tourism and of course awaiting the Grand Egyptian Museum's inauguration. Of course, there is a soft opening for the museum. We're going to be talking about that in detail and more. And there is nobody better to talk to us about tourism more than our dear guest, our prominent guest, Dr. Amr Atef. He's a travel expert and he is a PhD in Heritage and Museum Studies, Faculty of Tourism and Hotel Management in one of the prominent universities in Egypt. Good evening, Dr. Atef, and how are you doing?
Good evening, Dina. How are you?
First of all, let's talk about Egypt, chosen as one of the top destinations to spend vacations by by the Daily Mail, the British Daily Mail. Of course, they were urging the English people to go to Egypt, especially that we have that mild weather during summertime. And as we all know, that most of the world countries are suffering from the repercussions of climate change. So either you find wildfires, like in California, for example, or New Zealand, or different types of countries that might be warm, but they are suffering from extreme warm weather because of the climate change, or other countries who are extremely cold and you can never spend a vacation at. So Egypt is distinguished with this mildness and of course its beautiful spots. Let's shed some light over Egypt as one of the top destinations as a tourism spot to spend your vacations at.
Well, I'm not surprised that the Daily Mail actually listed Egypt as one of the top destinations for their travelers, and Egypt is a touristic country. I mean, it's a touristic state. And if we want to talk about culture tourism, we do have culture tourism in Egypt. If we talk about beach tourism, we have beaches in Egypt and we have beach tourism in Egypt. And by the way, beach tourism covers more than 70% of the world number of tourists who travel all over the world.
Different types of beaches also.
Different types of beach. 3,000 kilometers are the distance of the beaches that we have in Egypt by the Red Sea and by the Mediterranean. So when travelers come to Egypt, they say it was always on their bucket list. Not only this, they study Egypt at school. When we talk about Egypt, they study Egypt at school. They study Egypt as a destination at school. They study the history of Egypt. They study the pyramids at school. So they always want to come to Egypt, and that's why I'm not surprised to hear that. Egypt is a touristic country. Egypt, I know that most of the GDP of Egypt comes from agriculture exports, yet Egypt should be in a better place when it comes to tourism. The government now, the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, are goaling 30 million travelers by 2030, and they are doing a great job when it comes to tourism so far.
Right. Also talking about the English people, especially Britain, that usually they have a firm stance when it comes to their, perception of, of topics or ideas or visions. We remember Britain, 10 years back after the June 30th revolution, they were imposing a travel ban over Egypt for no reason. And although that we remember so well that most of the countries already were, changed their concept about the idea how Egypt have evolved into a free democratic country and have kicked the terrorist brotherhood organization and all that, and we were highly recognized at the United Nations.
Yes.
We were heading one of the committees fighting terrorism and all that, and we were sharing the African Union committees also, organization for 1 year and everything. We retained our leading role worldwide with the soft diplomacy of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. After all that, still all this did not, prevent Britain from putting Egypt over the list of the banned countries to visit for no reason.
They don't put
And
all over
lately,
Egypt.
the change of heart, complete, acute 180 degrees change, they have decided to choose Egypt as the
One
top
of the top
destination.
destinations.
One of the top destinations.
Yeah.
So this is great news.
Of course, this is great news because England is one of the main goals for the destination for Egypt. To come to Egypt for the British people, and they have repeating or repetitive clients who would come here. You meet the British people or the British travelers in Luxor, and they tell you this is our 6th time here, or this is our 7th time. So they go back and forth, and they enjoy, of course, the weather of Egypt, also because of the near distance between England and Egypt, and there has always been relations and good relations and diplomacy between Egypt and England, of course. Not only England, but all the European countries are, likely they come to Egypt and they like to spend their vacations here. One of the things that we can actually do and focus on is turning Egypt into a resort, like a winter resort for the Europeans. You kindly mentioned that they have issues with the oil and the heating and the power resources, so it's less expensive for them, and I'm talking about the Europeans, to come and spend long vacations and spend time in Egypt. We can turn the whole country into a destination, into a winter destination for all the Europeans, and into a summer destination with all the long beaches that we have. It's surprisingly enough to mention that one of the pilots, who was a friend of mine, and he used to be here in Egypt, and he told me that he flew over Al Alamein, and he could see Al Alamein while he is traveling with his plane over Egypt, and he is looking forward to come and visit Al Alamein. I was so happy to hear that, and I was so happy that he's willing to come and see Al Alamein. And I kept telling him about the pyramids, I kept telling him about Luxor, and he kept talking about Al Alamein, and he wanted to go to the North Coast. So I think that's a plus to be added to the bucket list.
That's true. We have too many fronts to talk about concerning the choice of Egypt as #1 destination by Britain, and also talking about the different types of beaches, and in particular Al Alamein, because
Yes.
Al Alamein is holding one of the biggest beach festivals
Yes.
you can ever. It's even much more huge than the ones that are held in Dubai. And it's attracting a flow of tourists from all walks of life. Let us first talk about the mere fact of the British recognition of Egypt as the #1 destination again. Their own recognition. What does that signify? They finally recognized that Egypt is the #1 spot, safest, the most mild weather, the most beautiful, charming spot where you can have everything, organic food, good weather, environmentally free, places like Sharm el-Sheikh, green cities like Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada and all those cities. Too many elements that British people really care about. So let's talk about the recognition of the British people of the importance of Egypt as the #1 tourist destination. What does that signify? What does that mean?
That signifies that Egypt is going on the right track, and that the government is going the extra mile to encourage the travelers to come to Egypt. And they hear day and night about the facilitations that Egypt are doing for people to come and stay and spend their holidays here. Not only this, but the excavations that has been taking place. Don't forget that lots of the archaeological missions were British. I mean, in the past and up till today, there are lots of archaeological excavation missions that are English. So Egypt comes on top of their list all the time, and that reflects the power of tourism in Egypt as a destination or as a tourist destination. And as I told you earlier, that when you talk to the British people, you talk to the British travelers, and they tell you this is not our first time. But what I want to mention is they don't come to see their father's Egypt or their grandfather's Egypt or their grandparents' Egypt or their parents' Egypt. They come to see new Egypt now. They come to see Egypt has changed. The new state, the new
roads, new network of roads, new hotels, the most modern state-of-the-art hotels you can see.
Yes.
The most environmentally free, sophisticated, civilized hotels like in Siwa, where you can see nothing
ecological.
Of course, it's all environment-free. Where you can never even see electricity. You can never even use something that is against the environment.
Yes, the cell phones doesn't. I mean,
or cell phones or anything.
It's totally ecological.
You can never see that anywhere else in the world except in those places.
In those places. That's why it's a great idea to turn Egypt as a resort, as an open resort for the travelers, and that how will be turning the obstacles that has been happening all over the world to a new path or a new hope, so people can come here and spend their vacation and spend the summer holidays and the winter holidays, because the cities you mentioned like Sharm el-Sheikh is also warm in the summer, in the winter, sorry. So the people would like to come and spend their holidays in Sharm el-Sheikh. They like to spend their holidays in Siwa, in El Alamein, you name it. You're speaking about beach tourism. We have beaches, and we have beautiful crystal clear seawater in the North Coast and in the Red Sea. You speak about culture tourism and traveling along the Nile. I mean, people like to go and do the cruises. But New Egypt that I'm talking about is this excavations that's taking place. There are lots of excavations and lots of digs, and the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, Minister of Tourism and Antiquities, Mr. Ahmed Isa, has been doing a great job doing some marketing and traveling and marketing all over the world. I mean, and encouraging people to come and spend their holidays here. So people would like to come and remember Indiana Jones movies. They like to come and go down in the tombs and see the new discoveries. This is what we would call Instagrammic tours. These Instagrammic tours, when they come and take pictures and put it on Instagram, that's why they call it Instagrammic tours. And people like that. People like to go to places that nobody has been there before, nobody has excavated before. So I've seen pictures of the Prime Minister of Egypt going into one of the shafts of the ancient Egyptian shaft by himself. I've seen the Minister of Tourism, and I've seen Dr. Mustafa Waziri, the head of Antiquities Department, going in the tombs and going in the new pyramids that they have been discovering, and Dr. Zah Hawass. So I think they are doing a great job with this, and this is a great promotion for Egypt as a tourist destination.
Right. We're going to stop for a while. We're going to go to a short break, and we'll come to continue our beautiful comprehensive look over how far have we reached and recognized by the world as the #1 top destination, tourist destination. Stay with us. Welcome back, and we're still talking about the modern tourism in Egypt and the classic one, and how it has chosen I mean, generally worldwide by most of the European and other countries as the #1 tourist destinations. And Dr. Amr, we were talking about the beach tourism.
Yeah.
Now the beach tourism, there is one type of tourism added lately to the beach tourism, to the very rich beach tourism of Egypt, which is the Al Alamein tourism. Of course, Al Alamein is like another city. It's another capital for Egypt, or the new capital of Egypt. where you can find all that you can dream of.
Yes.
You can, if you like to go enjoy yourself at the as a coastal city, it's a coastal city. If you like to go and study in universities, there are universities. If you want to go, it's almost like a replica of California, San Diego, but even way much more better, because
Yes.
the weather is beautiful, like you said.
Yes.
There's no wildfires, for example, or anything.
Yes.
But also, it's a mecca for all cultures.
Yes.
That's what distinguishes Al Alamein. A huge festival is being held now at Al Alamein ever since summer started, where you can find every week a pop concert is being held for the most popular celebrities, either Western celebrities or Gulf celebrities or Egyptian ones, you
Yes.
name it.
Yes.
And there is also, fashion shows. There are, other festivities, entertainment festivities. There are many things that you can enjoy life at. So talk to us about that type of city. How important is it now for the people to observe and people to visit and choose, every one of them pick up his own taste?
Yes. It's impressive, and when the travelers come to Egypt, they ask us about Al Alamein, and that's very impressive. In the past, when travelers used to come here, they never asked about the North Coast, and they would talk about Luxor, talk about Aswan, talk about Sharm el-Sheikh, yes, Hurghada, yes, but nobody talked about the North Coast. Now people have an idea, and they know. Jennifer Lopez did her famous party in 2019 in Al Alamein. So I think that hit the light, and people knew about Al Alamein ever since this party. And they ask us about Al Alamein, and I get very happy and excited that people want to go and visit Al Alamein. It's a new type of tourism. I like the term you used, Al Alamein tourism, because it's a city by itself. And I think in the near future there will be more resorts like Al Alamein by the North Coast. And look at the other side of the Mediterranean. Look at all the resorts. This is their only source of tourism. We're talking Spain, we're talking Italy, we're talking Cyprus, we're talking Greece. This is their only source of tourism. And now we have Al Alamein to be very competitive to those resorts, and people like to see it. Egypt, I think, has it all. It's like a cake, and every layer has something. If you talk about ancient Egyptian tourism, you'll find ancient Egyptian temples, as we were talking about Luxor and Aswan. Tell me a country in the world that people can go on a cruise and get off and visit the sites and go back on the cruise. This only happens in the Nile. This only happens in the cruise ships in the Nile. And then after they finish the cruises, they can go and spend the rest of their holidays in the resort. The plan of the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities and the plan of the government is to allow the travelers to spend more nights in Cairo and more nights in Egypt in general. In the past, the travelers would come and stay for like a week, 2 days in Cairo, and a 4-night cruise, a 6-night cruise. Let's go even and say 7-night cruise. Now this is not the case. Travelers who come to Egypt today, they spend like a month traveling all over the country, and you find that a lot. They spend a month, imagine 30 days, traveling and trying to explore Egypt and enjoying the beauty of Egypt.
Well, when we talk about the coastal areas in Egypt, it would take us more than one episode.
Yes.
Because speaking about a new city like Al Alamein, it could be more. It has more than one side, not only as a coastal city, but talking about cities like Hurghada, like Sharm el-Sheikh, completely environment free. They are totally green cities, and the type of life there is almost European. It's not even Oriental at all. So that's another phase of tourism or beach tourism. Talk to us about those places, and what type of tourists would go prefer and spend time in places like Sharm el-Sheikh or Hurghada and those places. The Red Sea resorts.
Travelers from Europe mainly, they come to Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada, and especially Hurghada, because of the activities, the water activities they can do there, like snorkeling and scuba diving and so on and so forth. Sharm el-Sheikh has Ras Mohammed. It's one of the most beautiful spots in the world when it comes to diving and snorkeling and scuba diving. Now, people who come here, now the European travelers would like to visit our resorts because of the weather, as you mentioned, as you kindly mentioned. The weather in Europe, when it's cold, in Europe, freezing cold, now it's warm in Sharm el-Sheikh and warm in Hurghada. And then when it's hot there, it's mild here in Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada. So people always like to spend the... I received a phone call also like 2 weeks ago from a friend of mine from Australia. And he's retired and he's coming to Egypt to spend his holiday. The first city he mentioned, I mean, he was in Cairo airport when he called me, and he said that he wanted to go to Hurghada. And he had heard about Hurghada, and he wanted to spend lots of the days of his holiday in Hurghada. So beach tourism is 60% or 60 to 70% from the world tourism. So we should increase more the number of travelers who would come to our resorts. They are already hitting 7 million for the last part of this year, or the latest part of this year, but we can have more. If we talk about a country like Canada, who get 35 million travelers, and the population of Canada is 37 million travelers, 37 million people. So if 35 million are visiting Canada, I'm sure that we can do better, and we can have more travelers and to come and visit Egypt, because Egypt has things that you can't find anywhere else, especially beach tourism.
Let's also talk to those who haven't visited Egypt, and especially the Europeans or foreigners probably. Talk to them about the ecotourism and the natural places that are depending on nature, mainly 100%, like in Siwa. They're very popular. I mean, 3 or 4 hotels popular worldwide in Swedish tourism, Swiss tourism, French tourism, German tourism. They book it online specifically, particularly to visit those places and spend time in nature. Talk to us about those hotels and how can we spend time with nature in it.
When you go to Siwa in particular, it's like you're going to the moon. They do have the desert, and they do have the eco lodges there, and the weather is wonderful, dry weather, so it can go also for medicinal tourism. People who want a dry weather, people who has asthmas, people who have skin issues.
And because of the springs
also. The springs, the water springs, there, the mineral springs. So if people who have skin issues, or people who have issues, medical issues or health issues, they are advised to stay in Siwa and to go and spend their holidays in Siwa. The conference tourism also is an important sector of tourism. I mean, they do hold conferences, like scientific conferences, like medical conferences, and so on and so forth. So I think Siwa is very promising, and one day you'll find charter flights going back and forth from Europe to Siwa. This is what I hope, that we see charter flights going back and forth from Europe all the way to Siwa to spend their holidays there. Travelers, the feedback we get from the travelers when they do the extension of their trips are very positive. People go spend their nights in Cairo, and then go on the cruise and spend their 3 days or 4 days or what have you on the Nile cruise, and then do an extension either in Hurghada or Sharm el-Sheikh or in Siwa. And you'll be surprised that Siwa gets very impressive, and people, the feedback we get from the travelers is always positive, and they feel that they want to come back. If you want to ask them, where do you want to see again when you come back, they say Luxor, they say Aswan, and they say Siwa.
Right, but also that popular hotels that depend mainly on nature. You can never take your cell phone. There are no TV sets.
Yes.
No cars.
Even
nothing.
The furniture is eco-friendly.
How does it work? I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you can only find it in very specific, rare places in the world.
Yes, and people like it for that matter. People like it because they
How
feel...
does it look like?
Well, it's built of the adobe brick. I mean, the hotel is built of adobe brick, and it's eco-friendly, and they use Hassan Fathi architecture. And of course, you know, Hassan Fathi is
bad conductors. I mean, the bricks are bad conductors of heat and cold.
Totally insulates
insulates
temperature. It insulates temperature. And Hassan Fathi is the one who invented the famous architect, the Egyptian architect.
As an international architect.
He's an international architect, but he's Egyptian, and he invented this kind of building, and he built lots of buildings in Latin America, and people know him worldwide. So the resorts in Siwa is built with eco-friendly materials, and so adobe brick and the dome roof buildings. The dome roofs actually allows, with windows, allows the hot air to leave the place and circulates the cold air or the cooler air in. So you don't need air conditioning, and you feel it's kind of warm in the winter and kind of breezy, if I can say, in the summer. So people enjoy it. You don't need air conditioning. Even the way they eat the food.
Organic food.
Organic food, of course. They have their own farms that supplies them with the food. Crispy, starched napkins and towels, and people just get impressed with the service they get, because people there are enjoying having tourism, so they go the extra mile.
It's a complete retreat.
Absolutely. And people like to get insulated sometimes. People are tired from electronics.
It is believed that King Charles went there before.
Of course, King Charles went there. Lots of
celebrities went.
Went there.
American celebrities.
Of course.
I think the King of Spain went once.
King of Spain went there once. I'm sure about King Charles. King Charles now. He went there, of course, and he spent his holiday there. The French president also went there. So there are lots of celebrities. They get their flights and they just go and spend their holidays there in Siwa. So Siwa is very promising. And someday...
It's very unique also.
Very unique, and the food is very organic. The water is all from the area.
Pure water.
Mineral water, or from the springs.
Right from the springs.
Right from the springs there. So I think, and they do safaris, they do different trips, like safari trips, like they go swimming if they want to do swimming. Also, they have the Temple of Ammon in Siwa, and the Temple of Ammon there that was built by Alexander the Great, where he had the prophecy when he came here to Egypt. So they also, if they want to visit sites, they go visit the Temple of Ammon there in Siwa.
We're going to stop for a short break, and we'll be right back with more about Egypt as the #1 tourist destination, so stay with us. Welcome back, and we're still talking about the wonders of Egypt. It could be more than 7 wonders. Of course, Egypt is among, possess 2 of the 7 wonders, but according to the modern tourism, Egypt is full of wonders. Of course, Dr. Amr, we were talking about the beach tourism, and we were talking, the last thing we were talking about, I mean, so many things to talk about. I mean, the ecotourism, the natural tourism. We also forgot the natural protectorates. I mean, where you can find the wildlife, which also have its type of tourists. It is also one of the beautiful attractions, but I think it's at a certain time of the year, not all for all seasons, right?
Yeah, true. People get very impressed with the nature of Egypt in general, and when they go on the cruise, on the Nile cruise, and they see the lush and vegetation by the banks of the River Nile, and they see the homes of the farmers, and they see people in the fields. It's all about people, people, people all the time. So they go and see the people, and they feel that this scenery, the green scenery and the lush and vegetation, has not changed since the biblical times. So they are traveling from a place to another. Imagine that the time frame from the step pyramid in Saqqara to the temples that the travelers visit when they go on the cruise, this time frame equal to the time frame from those temples to us today. In other words, people who build those temples like Edfu and Komombo and Esna and the temple of Isis in Aswan, people who build those temples, when they used to go to the step pyramid in Saqqara, for instance, as a visit, it was as old as those temples to us today are. So this shows you how spacious the ancient Egyptian civilization is. And this shows you how variety or how various sites people see. They move from one place to another. They go to Luxor and visit the ancient Egyptian pharaonic temples. And then they get on the boat and go sailing, or they go cruising, and then get off and visit Esna, and then Edfu, and then Komombo temple, and then the temple of Isis. Temple of Isis in Aswan also is very impressive for the travelers, because this has been active till the 5th century. Imagine, like 300 or 400 years after Christianity entered to Egypt, and this temple was still operating, was still active. So people really enjoy it, and then they fly to Abu Simbel, or they go by bus to Abu Simbel and enjoy the trip to Abu Simbel, which is actually, people say about Abu Simbel, if those who listed the ancient wonders of the world have seen Abu Simbel, it would have has been listed in as one of the ancient wonders of the world, but they haven't seen it, and that's why it's not listed as one of the ancient wonders.
Sure.
Go ahead. Building Abu Simbel was something, was a miracle, and moving Abu Simbel by the UNESCO was also another miracle that has been done in the 60s.
So talking also, we can talk about all that and forget the one of the lifetime events of in a millennium, which is the inauguration of the biggest museum worldwide, the most interesting, the most state-of-the-art museum, the most modern, all-inclusive museum, the Grand Egyptian Museum. Talk to us about the Grand Egyptian Museum for those who do not know anything. Why is it so special, and why is everybody worldwide waiting in anticipation for the grand opening? Of course, there is a soft opening, and there are several concerts that were held there, beautiful ones, but the grand opening is something else.
The gem.
What exactly is gem?
The gem is the Grand Egyptian Museum, and it's actually a gem among the museums in the world, if we can say. And the gem, imagine it will be the largest museum that was built to accommodate ancient Egyptian artifacts on Earth. When you go inside the gem, it's a kingship museum. The facade of the gem is made out of mosaics that looks like a pyramid, and the glass facade, glass entrance that looks like a pyramid. And then you enter inside the gem to find the statue of Ramses II that used to be in Ramses Square in the past. So they moved it all the way to be exhibited in the entrance, so it will be waiting for the travelers to come and see the statue of Ramses II. And then it has, every room has special for one of the kings and queens. So that's why I'm saying it's a kingship museum. with a total area of like 120,000 square meters only for exhibits and buildings, let alone the total area of the museum itself. So people who come here always ask about the gem, and I think when it's opened, when the gem is opened, it will increase the number of travelers who would come to Egypt. So people will be visiting the gem, the pyramids, and also they have the Sphinx airport that's not far from the gem, and this will increase the transit. I just came to my mind the Sphinx airport closer to the gem. So we have like 3 million travelers who land in Cairo International Airport every year, 3.4 million as a matter of fact. So imagine those travelers will have a chance if they land in the Sphinx Airport to go visit the gem and go visit the pyramids for like 2-3 hours and then fly back, and probably have lunch at the panorama at the pyramids and then fly back. So this is another kind of tourism that will be available when the gem is opened for the travelers. I mean, in November, the latest declaration was that the inauguration of the gem will be in November, coming November, inshallah.
When we talk about the gem, for those who haven't had it in mind or imagine, who are trying to imagine what exactly is the gem and why is it the largest and the most spectacular expected event of the millennium, is it a combination? It's a combination of a Guggenheim Museum of the Natural Art Museum, those of New York, or the Louvre, or exactly what does it combine all the privileges of all very popular historical museums worldwide? I mean, there is a theater, there is an environmental exhibition inside it, there is a library, you name it. I mean, it is taking all the most modern and historical also fronts worldwide. If you like to elaborate.
Yes, of course. I mean, all what you said is very true, and people go to the gem. I mean, because as you mentioned, the soft opening was there in the gem, and travelers now can book their ticket and go online and go and visit the gem. So they have laboratories, they have labs for restoration of the monuments. They do restore the monuments. They do. They have the wood lab, they have the linen lab, they have the metal lab, they have the stone lab. Imagine, people go from one room to another and see the different labs and the different ways of restoration. It's one of the biggest labs for restoring artifacts worldwide. And then the way the artifacts are displayed, the background of the rooms is glass and it overlooks the pyramids. So I think it's very impressive, and people can't wait to visit the gem. And when they come here, they say, we've been waiting all this to come and see the ceremony or the inauguration of the Grand Egyptian Museum. So as I told you earlier, and as you kindly mentioned, it will be a gem among all the museums.
A gem amongst all the museums. On that very hopeful note, Dr. Amr Atef, you're a travel expert, you have a PhD in Heritage and Museum Studies. Would like to thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming over to our modest program, Windows on Current Affairs, and wish to see you real soon, inshallah. And by this, we come to the end of this edition of the program. Many thanks to all of you. Until we see you again next week, that's a goodbye.